Hello there and welcome to the latest edition of the Greatest League in the World podcast. Myself and Conan joined today for a look at the forthcoming SSE Electricity League First Division by two men who are pretty familiar with it, Keegan and Owen Heary. Both of you have managed in the First Division, and of course Owen, you've had a really distinguished career playing in the Premier Division and winning league after league, seven leagues. Not bad, yeah. And obviously you've managed with the Shells in the First Division most recently, and Shane with Wexford Youths, and having been with Galway as well. When you look at the First Division that we have ahead of us here now, how do you see it panning out, Shane?
Yeah, well, I suppose on paper it looks at the moment as there's Shells and then there's the rest. Not to throw the pressure straight on.
No problem,
but
no.
Look, it certainly doesn't always pan out that way, but they appear to have a really strong squad, so they do, that's for sure. Very similar to Limerick a couple of years ago, and then you had Waterford. Last year was different. I suppose ourselves and Longford would have started the year as kind of the two favourites in the betting, but nowhere near, I don't think, as kind of outright favourites as you see this year. But look, it doesn't always go that year. I mean, I've been at both ends with probably started the season as favourites with Galway last year. Didn't work out, and it didn't work out for me, and then didn't work out for the club. And then 4 years ago I started a season with Wexford where we were 66-1, and we had the league wrapped up with 3 games to go. So it doesn't necessarily always go according to plan.
Yeah, there will be a lot of pressure on Shelbourne actually, Owen, won't there? I mean, it's with the signings that they've made, the guy beside me here included, there is that expectation that they're just going to walk.
Yeah, I think so. And you're saying that the budget, has been massively improved. Players they brought in, good quality players, Premier Division players. But there is big pressure for the club itself. They are a big club. The fans' expectations are high. When I went in there 2 seasons ago, there was a sort of a lull that there was no winning mentality in the club. So we managed to change that around. We took it on. Some of the players are still there today that'll drive that. But adding in the likes of Conan, Kilduff, Oscar Brennan, Dan Byrne, it's massive. But I think the
Premier Division quality players.
Quality players, and I think the only downfall, I was saying to Conan earlier, is who picks the team. Could be Shell's only downfall this year. You have Dave Henderson wants to have a say. You have Andrew Doyle wants to have a say. Dave O'Connor wants to have a say. Does Ian Morris get to pick the team, or does someone else pick the team? I think that could be the only downfall for them this year. If Ian Morris is allowed to pick the team, they should walk away with the league. Other than that, it'd be interesting to see.
We talked about Shells. Any other teams that could possibly get up there?
I think Bray. I think Bray have invested very well as well. They've got a Sava in, the keeper in. They've got Joe Doyle from Cabinteely. Quick, strong boy, he can score goals. The sign for me of the season is Paul Keegan. I think he's a Premier Division player. He's dropped down to the First Division, but he's one that can dictate games, and be interesting to see if he gets a hold of games during the every week in, week out, and plays to the potential that he can play on. He can control the game from midfield, and a lot of players will get confidence from that. I think they'll be pushing Shells close.
So Paul Keegan is a better signing for them than Conan is for Shells.
Well, I think Conan.
Will you stop putting people on the spot here?
Yeah, I think Conan.
Well, you say
goals. No, he is. He's the best. To me, he's the best signing. Look, I think Conan's a fantastic signing, and he'll get goals and he'll create goals when he plays. But with Paul Keegan, as I said, he'll be the first name in the team sheet week in, week out, and he's a leader. And that's what you want in your teams going for.
Dylan McLeod as well signed.
Yeah, look, Dylan was outstanding in the First Division last year, so he kind of dropped off the map a little bit, to be honest with you. I remember a few years ago when he, I think it was the year we won with Wexford. He was with Shells. Kev was the manager, I think, at the time, and he was absolutely outstanding that year. And he went to Pats on the back of it, and I was waiting for him to take off, and didn't happen there, and kind of next thing there was 2 or 3 years passed without him doing much, and he's absolutely exploded back in the scene last year. He was really good. It's a massive loss for Longford. Like it kind of swings it. I would have had Bray and Longford, maybe not a huge amount between them, but him going in that direction kind of takes him a good bit ahead of it. And with Paul,
I think he was expecting other teams to come in from him as well, because he left it late to sign for someone, so he was obviously expecting Premier teams, and I'm surprised that Premier Division team didn't take a chance on him, because he'd be a good squad player. But I think it's a good sign for Bray, because he will create goals. He scored, I think it was 12, 13 goals last year from the wing, left foot, right foot. So he has ability. We've all seen it.
A lot of people kind of tend to look at his social media account. As managers, would that affect your look on him?
Well, to be honest, not with me, because I'm not on social media. So it doesn't affect me. I know players come up and they say silly things on it and always hype themselves up. But I mean, that's right throughout football, and I think you take all that with a pinch of salt. I think you've seen it with the Liverpool centre half, who says he's the best centre half in the world. So self-confidence is good, but as long as he's doing it week in, week out on the pitch, with fairness Dylan did last year, so he's a good addition.
I did a bit of a piece around it with the Further Times 2 weeks ago after the out of contract game, the PFA out of contract game, and I said that I thought, as Owen's after saying, on pure ability in the seasons he's had, he should have had Premier Division teams knocking on the door, and the reason he hasn't maybe is his perception probably has damaged him a little bit. He's maybe at times considered to maybe overdoing it maybe a little bit and that kind of thing. And I noticed in his signing pictures with Bray this week that he has a new hairstyle on the back of his head, that the long hair wasn't helping his so I'm sorry if I influenced that. Exactly.
I'm in behind you.
But I think he'll excite the Bray fans.
Definitely. That's where I'm saying about Paul Keegan. You allow those players to go on and express themselves, and that's what he as well as that. Shels have the same. I think with Derry Pendergast at the back, he's solid, he's strong. Dean Delaney, Larkin, which you've played with, and they're good, solid defenders, which allow other players ahead of them to go on and express themselves. And you need that, I think, that experienced players on your team.
Any dark horses at all? First of all, Wexford were the dark horses that year that you went on.
And I suppose the closest thing to it last year would have been Drogheda. I suppose they wouldn't have been massively fancied at the start of the year, and they were right up around the top for the vast majority of it, and were unlucky to go out in the playoffs. They'll do well to repeat that trick, because again, looking at them, they're probably maybe you're looking third, fourth in line. But to be fair to him, I think he probably overachieved a little bit. Now they're good players, don't get me wrong, but he certainly got the max out of him last year. I thought he did a really, really good job with him. He's going to be under pressure to do that again. Can Limerick get themselves together enough to make another drive at it? I think it's kind of yet to be seen, really. So I find it hard to see anybody breaking into that top two ahead of the two we've spoken about there, to be honest.
And even on Drogheda, I think they've only signed Adam Wilson and born back from Pats. They relied a lot last year on Sean Brennan getting the goals. As you think from midfield, he scored something 12-14 goals, which is a great feat. They don't have a natural goal scorer, and maybe that's the one thing a lot of teams are missing in the first division. I think Longford could be thereabouts. They signed some good players, but other than Bray and Shels, I can't see anyone getting in between them for first and second in the league.
The thing with Longford is, like, if Longford could have kept what they had and brought in what they brought in, because they've made some great signings, they've made a couple of cracking signings, and I'll tell you now, Young, just having a bit of an inside knowledge from down in Wexford, young Aaron Dobbs,
and Carlton as well, the lad from
absolutely. But unfortunately, the fact that they've lost McGlade, Danny O'Reilly, Sanford, and they're big losses. So, but they're certainly capable of doing something.
They signed Kevin Knight from Cabinteely, so he's got a lot of experience as well.
Absolutely, I've spoken to Kevin on numerous occasions in the past to try and get my hands on him myself. Yeah, he's a fellow I think is a very good player. Yeah.
I think Aaron Dobbs could be a fellow who could score you maybe 15 goals.
Yeah, he could.
In the season.
He's
a good team. I think
you've known from Rovers and that.
And I saw him playing a few times for Wexford.
He's a strong boy. He's quick. He's aggressive, which you like in a young player, and I think he will get a couple of goals. He's a handful. That's for sure. And, I think Longford need that after losing Ferdinand, and he scored a lot of goals from last year. McGlade gone, so they need someone like that. But if Adam Evans they brought in, as I said, Carlton's gone in. They've even signed Lee Stacey, who's a good keeper as well, and you need that in your team. Where I keep saying that you have a bit of experience, and the younger players can go on and shine. And I think he signed well. In fairness to Neil Flynn,
there was a period last year where Adam Evans was absolutely on fire. Actually,
Adam's quality player. Like he's week in week out. What you get from he gives 100%. He works hard. He's quick. He's sometimes his delivery probably lets him down a little bit at times, but he doesn't stop trying. He probably over tries when something goes wrong. He keeps trying hard, and his game sort of dwells a bit. But when you put your arm around him and tell him just keep doing what you're doing, he tends to shine a little bit.
And really thought, like, when you think of that as a front three of Adam Evans, so I'd be a big fan of if you've got Adam and Carlton either side of Dobbs, that's a
good tree.
And then you have Manley, who's signed for them.
Yeah.
Centre half.
Joe Manley from Pats.
I think with O'Reilly gone.
Yeah, he's very good.
He's a good player. You know, they've strengthened. They've definitely strengthened on last year. But again, it's keeping them all fit. They don't have the biggest squad, you know, in terms of quality. I think that's the one thing that Shels have, that if someone gets injured, if someone straight away to take the place of that person.
Has the quality of the first division improved over the last couple of years, like year on year, or has it stayed the same?
I think it's stayed the same. I think there's a lot of young players that make their debut when obviously coming from 19s. And I keep saying about the 19s, I don't think the 19s is a great league. Reason being is that they're playing the same age level, they're not playing against men. And when they make the step up, you can see the difference between an experienced player, a man, so to speak, playing against a younger player. Like, you know, and I've said it when the 19s league started. I said, if you have a young lad marking another young lad, and he gets 5 chances in the game, and he misses the 5, centre half comes off, thinks I've done a great job. You know, he marks Jay Byrne. Jay Byrne gets 5 chances, puts 5 in away. The young lad straight away has to learn quickly how to adapt to it. And I think that's the reason why the 19s league is not that stepping stone to, you know, to go into the first division and then go into the Premier Division. I think we're missing that throughout the first division.
There's no doubt the first division on the flip, the first division as a testing ground for young players is fantastic. In the way that the 19s, there's a little bit of falseness to 19s football. You know, it can be, you know, standoffish a little bit in that, and obviously you get the exact opposite in the first division. There's certainly no standing off, but I think it's absolutely fantastic for helping our players rest out of the limelight a little bit, where they can make a few mistakes and that kind of thing. You look at some players like Kieran Kelly, who would have been at Pats and was at Drogheda last year. I mean, he was excellent, and I think he'll now be an excellent player this year on the back of having had that kind of thing. And there are some really, really good players coming through. I mean, going back to Longford again, young Abe Durfin in the centre of the field for Longford, I'm telling you,
locals as well.
He's a good player. Yeah,
I really, really like him. He's got eyes in the back of his head for a fella so young. His head is on a swivel. He's assessing, and you can't get near him. He has it, it's gone. You know, you get young players like that. Like, if you think
he's cheeky enough as well.
He is. He's not afraid to leave
not
it in. He's not afraid to leave it in. So he's not for a small fella.
Yeah.
No, look, he's a fine player, but you know, if we didn't have the first division for these fellas to find their ground and before stepping up, they'd probably just disappear out of the game altogether. But it's brilliant that it gives young players an opportunity.
But that's where I'm coming to, where the 19 should be an under 21s league, or allowed a few overage players to help them develop. That when they do come into the thing, they make probably less mistakes because they've learned.
That seems to be a very common thing that people in the game are saying, that step from 19s to senior is
too big.
It's massive. It's massive.
Too big.
You know, and you know, we're talking about making mistakes and things like that, and it's grand. The young players will make mistakes, but there's a lot of pressure on managers to win games. You know, throwing the young players in, like, you know, you've had young players make mistakes, probably cost you games.
Absolutely.
Shells, the fans' expectations are high. Brea's expectations are high. So sometimes it's hard to say, well, put the young fella in. All of a sudden, there's a lot of pressure on them straight away because they want to get promoted, they want to get in the Premier Division, and that's where, you know, the 19s league doesn't cope with that sort of pressure going into first division teams.
How do you think Cove will get on this season? I know they've lost Ian Mylod, and he put up a tweet, not a nice one, about Stephen Henderson. As a manager, how would you react to something like that?
I don't know. I'll be honest. I briefly mentioned it to Hendo on Friday night at the Soccer Writers Awards, you know, and as I kind of expected, Hendo just kind of said, look, there's an awful lot more going on there that kind of meets the eye, and that's inevitably always the case, whereas the general public only hear the headline bit or the tweet or, you know, the bit that, and there's always more background to it. Hendo didn't tell me what the background is, I didn't want to know what the background is, but, you know, there's a lot going on there, so I don't think anybody's probably have enough information to comment on it a whole pile. In terms of Cove in general, like, I would have no problem in saying that Hendo is their biggest asset. He's a bigger asset to them than any player that they've got. They've got a few decent players, don't get me wrong, but the reason that they have done as well as they have done over the last couple of years, to my mind, is because of Hendo himself. And I think, you know, you can have a pop at him if you want, and I'm sure he doesn't do everything right. None of us really do, but
just for clarity, the tweet was from the player saying that he was being let go, or he wasn't being re-signed for the new season, and he hadn't been contacted, and he felt a bit PO'd about that.
Well, I just think.
He was being let go.
Sorry?
If he wasn't contacted, how does he know he was let go? That's the other side of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But I think it happens though. Like, I think managers do. Like, it happens in Premier Division football at the top teams, that you just have to understand it. For manager,
it's very hard to contact, you know, every player, and you do try contact them to say, look, it's not going to happen. But sometimes you're waiting to see, do you get a player to let another player go?
Right.
And by that time,
Cat and mouse
that
game.
player has already gone to someone else, and he hasn't told the manager he's leaving. Do you know what I mean? So It is. I think social media is easiest to throw a tweet out and throw this out, and everyone jumping the bandwagon. As you say, you don't know what goes on behind the scenes. You don't know what happened during the year. You know, the player might have known he was going, and you know, at the end of the season, but the manager didn't tell him, but he had an inkling that he was going. Like, it's too easy for players to have a pop and say move on. And then when you do release a player, he turns around and goes, "Oh, I left there because I didn't enjoy the football. The football was better here." And then he doesn't get in that team. He leaves and said, "Oh, I didn't enjoy that football." You know, there's always an excuse. Sometimes the excuse is they're not good enough. You just have to.
I look it works both ways as well, right? There probably have been occasions where myself or Hendo or Owen or somebody like that maybe hasn't, has maybe avoided having a conversation that they probably should have had. But if every player who ever told me they'd ring me back before they made a decision as to who they were going to sign for actually stuck to, which is why you always appreciate when a player does ring you back and says, "Listen, I'm going to be announced tomorrow at such and such club. Thanks for having the chat with me there when we met up." I would say that's 1 in 5. I'd say four times out of 5 the player says, yeah, I'll be back to you to let you know what my plan is, and the next year is a picture of how exactly. Yeah. So we all avoid all.
I think Cove will do all right this year. You know, the previous year when we finished second, had a fantastic season. Last year didn't go to plan, but he's managed to keep the same sort of squad of players. He's added in Docker, as well. He's added in Docker from Rockmount, who was speaking to Stephen, said he's a big, strong, physical boy, and if he doesn't get goals, he'll definitely kick a few players. So that's a good addition because he's played at a good level in Leinster, Munster Senior League and things like that. So if you be used to getting that sort of high tempo football where he's getting kicked from pillar to post. So going to the first division.
I suppose the other thing is the experience of getting to the League Cup final last year, and that run that they had, just in terms of developing an esprit de corps amongst the squad and everything. They could do it.
It gives them a hunger then to get to another, to try challenge for more trophies as well. So
they always seem to have a great collective about them, don't they? They always look like a team that's very, very much together. No superstar kind of attitude about them. So there is,
Who'll struggle?
Well, at any stage your starting point is what happened the previous year, and obviously Wexford and Athlone were kind of well back from the rest of the pack last year. Athlone seemed to be maybe get their act together. They're kind of reluctant to say things too quickly when it comes to Athlone, given the last couple of years they've had, but they seem to get their act together. They've announced a few decent signings and
new pitch.
A new pitch.
Yeah, sure. Could be a big thing for them.
But even the fact that they're announcing signings, they're probably going to have a starting 11 on the first day of the season, where those of us who have a reasonable understanding of the first division will know most of the teams in the first 11. We had them on the opening day of last season, and I didn't know anybody on their team sheet. I didn't know anybody I was talking to, again, the awards the other night. I was talking to Aaron, because Aaron was over him at the start of last year, and Aaron Callahan was over at the start of last year, and he was telling me they were still having trials a week before the start of the season, so it was no wonder I couldn't get any information on them when they didn't play a single pre-season game, whereas they seem to be kind of getting their act together an awful lot quicker this time round.
Well, Terry Butler has been around the league a long time, hasn't he?
Especially in Leinster Senior. He knows a lot of players from the Leinster Senior League. He's only signed Lloyd Buckley as well.
That's right.
Dunn. I think you had Dunn.
Shane was starter week in, week out here. We won it. He's got quality. John Morgan has gone there as well.
That's right. Yeah.
So they're signed a few, but you're right. The Astros is a big thing. John
big step though, isn't it, for them to go from, what did they get last season? 7 points or 10 points, or I have it written down somewhere. To go from that to actually being competitive.
Yeah, well, again, you can only speak of your own experiences. At Galway, I was kind of coming in from, anything other than top was a problem.
Yeah.
Whereas when I went in at Wexford, anything better than last was a step in the right direction, because that's kind of in and around where they've been in previous years. And Terry now finds himself in that situation. That's not a bad situation to be in, where there's no pressure. It's your baby, and you'd like to think maybe he'll be given a couple of years to kind of grow it there. And if they finished third from bottom, if they finished in around 7th or something like that, that'd be a fantastic season for them. And next thing you're gaining a bit of momentum and you're growing it, and that's how it worked for us. Down the he's got that kind of opportunity to maybe go and do something like that over a 2-3 year period. We had young Manning, younger brother of the chap. I don't think he's going back to Galway. There's a bit of talk that he might go there. He's got fantastic ability, from having worked closely with him. He needs to shape himself a little bit to get a bit more out of himself, but if they could bring him in as well, he'd give that bit of spark. You'd like to think that they might improve a bit this year.
Athlone, You know, it depends on, you know, their 11 that they have, keep that 11 on the pitch, yeah, they get results. But we've seen it the way they've got all these players in, and then 2-3 weeks down the line, there's money problems, which you're hoping that doesn't happen this year. That he is given that they don't lose the few games, and all of a sudden there's a few problems there. I think with the 11, if they have the strongest 11 that they can put out, they'll definitely pick up points off people and surprise people along the way.
How big is the gap between the Premier Division and the First Division?
Massive, absolutely massive. You know, and then you've seen it, like, you know, Limerick going up and all of a sudden back down as well. Like, you know, they're a full-time team they were last year. I don't know, it's hard to say that the likes of Shells, I think if Shells went up this year, they'll still find a big gap in the Premier. You know, they'd have to add in better quality players, which is hard to say. I don't mean that in respect of yourself. I just mean that, you know, there is that gap. Look, if they were all good, then they'd be all playing the Premier Division. Yeah. It's as simple as that. So if you go up, definitely have the strength to stay there. I don't know how can you prove the gap, you know, over the course of the season. Are you saying Dundalk are the best team? Is the gap between Dundalk and the First Division massive? But it is massive between the rest of the Premier Division. Or do you go off the team that finished third from bottom last year? So it's hard to judge. But in terms of the players, I think there's a massive gap there.
The reason there's such a gap, I suppose, is because inevitably, if you come down, 90% of your squad will leave you. You know, 90% of your starting 11 certainly will leave you, because the Premier is where they all want to be, and you know, that's where they all end up. You know, you look at, I think we might have retained 2 of our starting 11 at Galway from our Premier Division side to our First Division side. So, you know, it is inevitable that there is going to be a big gulf between the two divisions.
Conan, what do you think the gap is?
Oh, no, I do think the gap is big. I do. Even like from playing in the division back with Sporting Fingal back in 2009, I don't think much has changed. Last year when Cork beat Longford 7-0, and Longford were going very, very well at that stage, Dylan McGlade was scoring week in, week out, and he didn't get a kick that game. So yeah, I do think there's a big gap. I just wanted to ask the experts.
Not only physically, but mentally there's a big gap.
It's full time compared to part-time. I think you have loads more time on the ball in the First Division. Experience and quality, they all add. Those actually, they all add up.
Probably the most educated person to ask that question at the moment is Ollie Horgan. Do you know, because Ollie is absolutely in that yo-yo position at the moment. So where he's able to get it right every time in the First Division, he's able to get it right. So he is, and yet the Premier is just that.
They were like that for years, didn't they?
Up
and down.
And it'll be very interesting to see how UCD do in the Premier. I know it's the first we're looking at, but just as a comparison between First and Premier, it'll be very interesting to see how they do now that they've gone up, because they were excellent in First this year.
What about Galway? Another club who've been up and down a fair bit.
Look, there's been a good bit of change there. I think the club themselves would admit that you know, financially it's got quite tough for them over the last few years. I still have a reasonable good relationship with the club. You know, we parted on quite decent terms, and I certainly would still have a very good relationship with Alan Murphy. We're possibly lining up a practice match for next weekend, a pre-season game for next weekend against them. But yeah, I think the club themselves would probably say that they would be very, very, very happy if they could sneak into a playoff position, which is a very different starting base from the expectation last year. But I'll tell you what, he's going to get to work with some very, very good young players, some really, really good young players.
Vinny Fardy.
And one or two that aren't as young in Vinny's case, that's for sure. And Vinny's going to have a massive role there, because, you know, it's probably going to be, with respect, it's probably going to be the poorest team that Vinny has ever played in, if you get me, because Vinny has always been surrounded by really, really high quality players, whereas now, you know, he's essentially going to be the main man in a dressing room full of kids, you know. So he's his take on things and how he handles all that, and how he handles when things aren't going right. You know, he'll make or break a lot of the young fellas in that dressing room. But I think he's got the right head for that. I think he knows what he's.
It's important to have someone like Vinny in the dressing room with kids that will develop them.
I like Conor Barry that's there as well. He scored a lot of goals last year, so there's a lot on his shoulders as well as Vinny. And you're right, having him in the dressing room with his experience, telling young lads, you know, don't be panicking, just keep calm and play and blah blah blah. But having Conor there as well, who has experience now over the last couple of years, is a massive thing.
He was
having Alan.
You know, of course.
I mean, Alan has been there a long time, and he's played there, and he's shown his qualities over the last couple of years as well. So I think Galway, maybe sneak into a playoff. It'd be a good season for them.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue we probably have at the moment is a goalkeeper.
Tide,
you know,
yeah.
even though you know things didn't go as well, we would have liked Tide. Tide was excellent, absolutely excellent last year. Connor Wynn, who would have been in the goal for a few years previous, has emigrated. You know, there's no. You know, I'm getting a couple of phone calls from one or two that I'd still be in contact with. That Galway saying, "Have you a name you can throw at us?" You know, in terms of a goalkeeper. There certainly isn't really any jumping out over in Galway. Shane Cusack is playing junior football down with Newmarket Celtic. They have an extremely strong junior setup. Galway may look, you know, could they possibly try and get a player or two
What's
in there?
the old Schlingerman doing these days? Is he playing junior?
Yeah, Schlinger was on the bench for young Gaelic footballers last weekend. You know, you definitely have an eye on that
Keep
one.
fit, obviously. Then.
Yeah, well, they should, you know, definitely I'd say so. If he
Yeah,
can be got,
Yeah, you'd grab him. Yeah.
Yeah, chance of it.
if he can be got, he'd be ideal for them, absolutely.
Yeah,
So he
yeah.
would.
Well, he's in that neck of the woods, isn't
Yeah,
he? So,
yeah. No, he's out west. It could be an option for them. If they could take that box, they mightn't be too badly off. You know, as Owen said, Conor Barry, you know, it probably took me longer than it should have taken me to realise just how good Conor was last year. Really, he was kind of he'd only just become a real regular in my team. Kind of when things came to an end for me, he's a super bit of stuff, a really super bit of stuff, and they've done well to hold on to him.
Yeah.
Can I ask you both, by the way, as two men who were managing in the division and then suddenly it came to an end, how difficult is that? How hard is it to accept?
Depends on your circumstances. We only lost 3 games last year, finished top goal scorers, conceded the least amount of goals. So it didn't come to the nicest end because of the fact that I was told one week, yeah, definitely want you there, and then the following week I told, oh no, sorry, we're going in a different direction. You know, and then there's a lot of sneaky stuff that was going on behind the scenes. But as I said, you know, for the fans, for the club, I hope they go on and win it. And I expect them to win it, you know, and I'd love to see them in the Premier Division, challenging next year, competing next year in the Premier Division. So it's different circumstances, I suppose. There was a lot of pressure on Shane going into the season because the expectations was he has to win it. So, you know, when you're not winning games, then he probably expected that something was going to happen along the line. But when you are winning games and you're in the playoffs, which you hadn't been for a while, and you win 2 trophies, then you're not expecting it. That's when it hurts most.
Yeah, I would have certainly liked to have been given the season. I suppose, yeah, you were starting the season where you were being talked about as possibly winning it, but the primary aim was for Galway United was to get back up. And I suppose most simply put, you know, the day I was given the P45, I still had 100% belief that we were going up. We were 2 points outside the playoffs. 2 points outside the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right, we weren't going as well as we should have been, and you could argue that we should have been higher up the table. But we were 2 points outside the playoffs. I would have fully backed us to get into the playoffs. The killing thing for me was the timing, because it was the week before the transfer window opened.
Right. Yeah.
And I'd had no problem holding my hand up. I probably didn't get the chemistry of the squad right. Maybe, you know, I would have always kind of prided myself on, you know, the players that you sign and all of that kind of thing, and a huge amount of homework done in that. And I suppose I probably felt the pressure of being favoured in the first division, and I took a gamble maybe in 1 or 2 positions and 1 or 2 personalities and that kind of thing. So you were looking at the transfer window and you were going, right, I'm kind of aware of where our shortfalls are here.
Yeah.
You'd kind of earmarked 2 or 3 fellas, and again, I'd be a massive fan of bringing players in from junior football, and I had kind of 2 or 3. I think there's some real diamonds out there that could yet appear in the league this year. I had 2 or 3 of those kind of earmarked to come in that I thought could really turn us around. Really turn us around. All we had to do was eat up those 2 points, get ourselves back into the playoffs, and all of a sudden, right, bring on the playoffs.
Yeah.
We're moving in the right direction here. Let's go and get ourselves straight back up. So that would have bugged me, but yet at the same time, you know, the club's argument would be, you know, you had a budget that was probably, you know, top 2, top 3 certainly, and we expected you to be in the top 2, top 3. You weren't, so end of story. But 2 points off the playoffs when it was gone. 14 points off the playoffs at the end of the season. That'd be my argument, you know.
Yeah. How important is the transfer window?
It's massive. You know, it's massive. But I suppose it's massive for players as well, because there's a lot of amateur players as well in the first division that like moving around. That they don't get game time, which is understandable. But as Shane said, that you go to a stage where you say, well, we have to improve certain aspects. When I went into Shells, couldn't win a home game. You know, every time they went down 1-0, never won a game. They lost 11 or 12 games in a season. So the first thing we have to rectify is say, well, defensively, you know, we sorted it out. Got Derek in, got Dino in, made a strong, competitive finish 4th. You know, what we were missing a striker. So we got Davey O'Sullivan in, which I'm surprised he hasn't signed for anyone at the moment. But Got Davey O'Sullivan in, and then we started getting the goal. So we did turn things around. We made Shells competitive. We made them that they wanted to win. And then when we won the first Leinster Cup against Dundalk, all of a sudden the lads had a belief. The younger players had that belief. Say, we want to win stuff. Then the following year you retain it, beating Pats. Which is another good feat because Pats had a strong team out like Dundalk. And all of a sudden they have that little bit of hunger. And I think that's what will drive Shells on this year to eventually win the league. There's players there that have the hunger. Young Shane Farrell, who I think is going to be a hell of a player. He's only doing his leaving this year, and he has some ability. But again, he was playing Leinster senior football. He wasn't playing under 19, so he's played against men. He's come into the team. He's done exceptionally well, and I think he'll be a surprise this year. Depending on if he gets the game time because of the 40 players that he's signed.
In terms of those playoffs, by the way, are you fans of the structure as it stands at the moment?
I am. I think it keeps it very, very interesting. So it does look. You've always got to look at the scenario whereby a team might finish in second position and they might finish 20 points ahead of the team in fourth position.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the team in fourth position are going up, and the team in second aren't. And that does look. There's an element of unfairness about that. But in terms of excitement and giving everybody something to chase. Like that situation a couple of years ago with Hendo, oh my God, you just fell for him so much. You really, really did. I think this is a fairer system.
I think second against Tours, that should be it. Then they play, they go off and play the second bottom of the Premier or whatever it is. I think if you finish fourth, you have 6 games before you get to the Premier.
It's long.
It's quite a long game.
And they're crammed in.
I do believe next season apparently they're going to tighten.
I think they should.
I
think they should. But you're playing 6 games. We dropped ourselves and dropped we played the first game. We won up in the second game. We went down to 9 men. Dropped a lot of the ball. Sometimes you get a lot of the ball. You don't actually do much with it, but you're still using a lot of energy trying to move us because we set 9 men behind the ball. We got the penalty, so it was a long game. All of a sudden, then they got to Finn Harps after that. So played 2 games against Finn Harps, and then they got through that to play another 2 games. So it's long, especially we don't have the biggest of squads, the quality of squads that you're looking for. And Finn Harps had 2-3 week break before they went and played the game, so they were fully focused on what they had to do. So I think second against Tours is enough. I don't think fourth should be in there at all.
Although, as Shane says, it does for teams who are maybe mid-table. It keeps all their matches very, very important, very competitive.
No matter what, you look at the team that's bottom of the table. They're not going to be saying, we're playing the team that's just outside the top. We're going. It works both ways.
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
I just think
they finished 40. He'd be glad.
No, I do think it is too long. I said I was at the game last year with Drogheda Shells when Shells went down to 9 men, and straight after the game I was like, Finn Harps are just rubbing their hands in glee here.
But if we got through, we were going to be down 2 players. We fatigued with other players. Derek Pendergast was playing 120 minutes, whatever it was, with his knee hanging off. So we'd had no team going to play Finn Harps.
Yeah.
So it is difficult. I just think it's too long. I just think second against Tours, and then the winners go and play the second bottom.
And I think that's the way it was back when Fingal went up back in 2009. We was only second against Tours, and then straight up we played Shells in the playoff actually, and then we played Bray in the relegation playoff, and that worked well. I just think, as I said, it was very long, the 6 games to get promoted after playing so many 27 games or whatever it was before.
No point asking him, he's not going to be involved in any playoffs
I'm thinking about this. I'm actually interested to hear what you say to this, because from your own motivational point of view this season, you're going to be playing in a team that are expected to win the league, but you're not going to be going to Tala and Turner's Cross and big crowds in Dundalk and stuff. You might have nights down in Athlone on a cold Friday night where there's a couple of 100 people there or whatever. Is it going to be hard for you personally to keep yourself motivated?
The old cliche of saying no, but no, because you're a professional, and that's what I put in front of everyone. I've worked hard in this pre-season more than any other pre-season, mainly because of obviously I want to keep going, I want to keep playing with my age, so obviously I'm stretching and foam rolling an hour a night. Amanda's at home and going mad that I'm not sitting beside her on the couch. I'm sitting on the floor doing my foam rolling, and the runs, keeping up with the runs. And I just think you're that has to come from within. You're professional. Obviously, you'd love to be playing in the big stadiums every week.
Why ain't you? That's the question. Why did you take the step down?
Teaching.
Is that what it was?
Teaching.
Couldn't play for Bowes and that like that. It could have kept you-
Bowes never called.
No,
Bowes
yeah.
never called. No. But teaching is my career now, and I have to look for it there. So I had to go back. Pats went mornings, so went back part time, and then there were offers from Premier Division clubs that are unrealistic with the teaching that I was doing. Better offers at other clubs in the First Division, but I
think it suits you as well, Shell.
it does suit me. But at the same, I played with them before. Got promoted with them before, and kind of wanted to replicate that again. And the signings that they made were very strong. And look, I'm 33, I still want to win things. I've never won the First Division. I got promoted, never won that, so it's a medal that I haven't won. So it's something that I wanted to do. And but in terms of like getting motivated, I think, and as Owen, you've won countless medals.
Right,
it has to come from within.
It's either in you or it's not.
It's
and
not,
that's the winning mentality that he has. I think the hardest part for Con this year would be some of the pitches that he's going to play on. You know, Cavantilli's pitch at the start of the year is a lot of rugby that's played on it, and it's going to be like that. He likes to move with the ball, run with the ball. It's going to be difficult for him.
It's bumpy during the summer.
Cove as well. Sometimes it's not the greatest of pitches, but you'll have Athlone where it's a good Astro pitch. You'll have Talcott that's a good pitch. You know,
Wexford's a good pitch.
Wexford, Bray. So there is the quality. It's when he goes to play the teams that the pitches aren't great, that's probably going to be harder for him than the motivation of going to win it.
And from your points of view, are you keen to get back involved now in the league, or what's the story?
Actually, yeah, look, you'd be lying if you said you wouldn't. I suppose inevitably what happens, Con, is you learn more in tough times than you do in good times, and you know, I just felt I would have learned so much over that first half of the season that, you know, what's the point in having all this new learning, new knowledge if you don't get a chance to try and put it to use? You know, you're saying I won't make that mistake again, I won't make that mistake again. Well, you can only not make those mistakes again when you're back, you know, managing at that level again, really. So you'd be be interested in getting back involved, all right, in some capacity, yeah, definitely.
And Owen, you kind of had a bad experience at Shells. Has that left a sour taste, or would you
It was a different sort of management, different boards that was there. That, you know, as I said, everything was going grand, and a new man comes in, he wants his own man there. That's part of football. It's the way they went about it. You know, talking to Joe Casey, and the whole board said, yeah, they want me to stay, and I feel it was by the owner, which is grand. Like, but don't tell me 1 week you want me there, the next week you don't want me there. You know, so what I said, myself and Naim Kelly, you know, we left the club in a better state than when we found it in. As I said, the dressing rooms were done up. We had the gym there. We had the team going the right direction. We have a winning mentality there. And it's just up for the lads to take it on. As I said, I still like Shells. You know, the fans are great down there, and I expect them to be in the Premier. You know, so no, not a bad. It's a bad experience with certain people, but you'll get that throughout your career in football. Like, you know, it's not always going to be nice and rosy. So just certain people, you move on, you meet other people, and you just get on with it.
Well, I think we have an interesting season in the First Division to look ahead to. You have an interesting season in the First Division ahead, that's for sure.
Yeah, I've learned a lot out of it from sitting down.
I was noticing one thing when I was looking at, again, as you say, just looking at bits and pieces, and that you have to be the only league in Europe where the favourites to win the First Division and favourites to win the Premier Division have managers who've never managed before.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's That's, you know, I suppose from the outside looking in, your squad looks so good at the moment that everybody's saying, well, I hope Ian manages to make a balls of it because he's so new to it.
He's feeling the same pressure probably that you felt.
Yeah, exactly, and that does maybe alter your thinking. You know, it can get on top of you a little bit at times where your logic, maybe you don't apply your own logic as well as you normally would do. You know, it can get on top of you a little bit like that. And yeah, look, but I mean, by all accounts, he's I've spoken to one or two.
He's not in as manager. He's not a manager. He's head coach.
Head coach. But look, by all accounts, he has impressed a couple of people that have been talking that are involved in your setup in one capacity or another. So I'd say it's a challenge for him, but I'd say he's looking forward to it.
Interesting times ahead, that's for sure. Lads, Owen, Shane, thanks a million for coming.
Thanks very much.
Thanks. Good luck to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well.
Yeah.
Pressure.
No pressure, no.
No pressure at all.
No, never.
That's it. That's the First Division wrapped up, and we do have interesting times ahead in the First Division this season, that is for sure. From all of us here, thanks a million for watching. Bye for now.